The work session. Welcome to the work session of the Board of Trustees for the town of Buena Vista, Colorado. Tonight's work session is going to be the first of many discussions about the 2025 budget. And tonight we'll have presentations from the treasurer as well as from department heads. So Philip, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mayor, trustees, and welcome to the budget. Yay. So next slide, Brian, if you will. I'm going to move through my portion quickly so that the department heads will have plenty of time tonight. But a few things I want to highlight. First of all, budget timeline. We're at that point where we're kicking off. What we like to do, we start with a work session for the board where we start at a higher level before you get the pages of numbers and account line items and all of that. We like to start with overarching themes for the year and let you hear from the department heads at their level, what they're looking at, what they're considering, and to kind of give you an idea of what to anticipate. At the next meeting, October 8th, is when we have our formal presentation of the budget. So at that point, we will go into a little bit more detail. You'll have all the details, and then that's when it's available to the public as well. So high level tonight, more detail next week. Next slide is a look at, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this will give you and the public an idea of our approach to budgeting. So typically in the springtime, the administration and the board will get together and go through a spring planning session, talk through accomplishments and challenges and coming up with ideas for what may be priorities coming up. And that gives the administration and the department heads some guidance on what to look for as they're putting together the draft budget. So we like to use our collective vision statement and our strategic goals of environment, water, economic vitality, infrastructure, and community. And then on this slide, you'll just see kind of the next layer of detail that was put together from that spring planning session. So not going to read all that to you, but as you're looking through that, if you're seeing something missing, it's probably good to bring it up, as we get into the budget discussions. But certainly that's the guidance that we're using as we set priorities. Next slide, I want to cover a few operating changes and assumptions that are baked into the initial draft of the budget. So first of all, our approach to budgeting is structurally balanced. So that means our recurring revenues cover our operating expenses plus our priority capital needs, our maintenance, and then new capital spend that is prioritized by our staff and our advisory boards and the Board of Trustees. So we want to try to get to a point where our revenues are balancing those baseline set of expenses. We do and can utilize fund balance, especially for one-time capital projects. So that will be a discussion at the next meeting. I'll highlight where we're at on our capital projects, that list, how much money we have available, and then some considerations that the board can take in terms of utilizing fund balance. But we don't start off utilizing fund balance in our draft budget, with the one exception, which is carryovers. So carryover projects technically are spending fund balance because unspent funds in this year fall to fund balance, and then we utilize that in next year's budget. So we will call out and highlight those projects for your awareness as well. So that is the one exception that we take for fund balance spending. Good news is, and I'm sure you all are aware at a macro level, but inflation is easing and getting a little bit closer to, I guess, that ideal number of 2. So we're looking at about a 2.6% inflation rate or cost of living increase from 2023 to 2024. So we use that as a guide when we look at COLA changes for our pay plan. We also use it for kind of anticipating where we're going with some of our ongoing expenses. But that said, we have faced some significant cost increases. And just two examples, our liability insurance, our baseline cost to that jumped 10% year on year, and our health insurance jumped 13.5% year on year. So major cost increases. And basically those are lagging indicators. So they're catching up with their costs and passing those on to us and their other clients. But thankfully, I've got a great team here. So Jonna Schuman's here with me tonight. She's a huge help for me and the departments as we're putting together the draft budget. We've put a lot of effort into looking at those two things, our liability insurance. So we spend quite a bit of time looking at our all the vehicles and facilities that are covered. At the same time, CERS is increasing deductibles. And so we've been able to kind of offset that cost increase by making some changes in coverage there. And then on the employee health insurance plan, it's something Brian will mention a little bit later. We've been researching and digging into changing our plan and provider. And we're looking at about $160,000 to $192,000 savings from that. And we do need every penny of that. So we're not looking to lose any coverage for our employees, but changing that structure a little bit is a potential huge cost savings for us. So we're doing what we can on our side to offset those things. And then looking at our employee pay plan, as the board's mentioned, prioritizing retaining our employees, our staff. We are looking at that 2.6% COLA plus 1% merit in our pay plan next year. Our community grant allocation, so under public support, one of the things that the board has allocated is 1% of our budgeted sales taxes that go to the community grant. So our allocation right now is still remaining healthy at $58,300. And then you can see there, I've just kind of indicated what we're looking at in terms of fund transfers, and that's what we use to help fund capital projects. So 360 from the general fund to capital improvement, 100,000 from our marijuana fund to capital improvement, 30,000 from conservation trust to capital improvement, and then 150,000 from general fund to airport. So we're not deviating too much from our typical transfers at this point. A lot more on that later. Okay, we'll keep going. All right, revenue projections. So one of the things that we're combating here is we are certainly in a slow growth period. And I tried to kind of show you where we've been since the year 2000. 2000 to 2013, we were what I call the steady growth period, about a 3% average year-on-year increase, with a handful of years that were down during that period. Then we hit a high growth period, 2014 to 2022. Double-digit annual growth became somewhat normal, even though we were always cautious. We budgeted conservatively, but we were seeing about a 12% annual growth. We have slowed way down. So as we've been talking about for the last 12 months or so, we're seeing a much smaller growth, if not flat. So from 22 into 23 and 23 to 24, we're at about a 1.9% annual growth. And right now we're actually flat through 2024 compared to this time in 23. So looking at our budget, we're planning on a 1% increase over 2024 actuals, which is a combination of actuals so far, plus the projections for the remainder of the year. So a very conservative, but realistic revenue projection there. That will make a lot of things tight in the budget. So some other things to note, property tax revenue, we're looking at a 5% increase. As we've discussed, Tabor limits our property tax revenues. So even if values of homes go way up or we were looking at a lot of growth in town, we're really bound by Tabor limits there. So a modest 5% increase of property taxes. Interest rates, thankfully, are still high, and they're going to come down a little bit. And we're projecting them to come down a little bit, but they're still historically pretty high for us. So that is a nice little source of revenue for us. And then we're preserving our fund balances to comply with our reserve policies and debt obligations. Good. I'm available if you ever want to dig into any of this, and then as we move forward. In the interest of time, I am going to hand it off to Jack, and we'll talk a little bit about the airport.
Union Mayor, trustees, thank you very much for the opportunity for us to present the budget for the airport and some of our vision and what we've been doing and what we plan on doing in the future. Give me a few minutes to read the slide up at the top there, starting there. So in the last few years, we've had about 10,000 people transition through the airport. And we've got some stats here for you. And, you know, the bottom line is they're all coming into town in the county area spending money. And we at the airport, our revenue, what we get is fuel sales, you know, renting hangar space, tie down, you know, services that we provide. But I would suspect bulk of the revenue the airport is pushing out is these folks coming in and coming downtown and spending money. So it's kind of handy to have. I'll come back to a little bit of stats. So the airport, we sit on about 185 acres of land right now, which we manage ourselves at the airport. We do get some help from public service, or public works, I should say. We do a lot of work. So just recently in 2023, we moved the fence line to bring the entire airport now is inside the fence. So what of that is we're now able to start leaning forward and looking at hangar development that will start generating revenue, more traffic, more aircraft. So we're just at the beginning phases of that, but our first job was to move that fence and we got it done. I think the second thing we're going to start looking at is the annexation of the rest of the airport into the town. I would say maybe a quarter of the airport is in town limit. The rest of it is sitting in the county. So that's our project to bring that inside the town. Again, that helps us with, as we move forward with hangar development, a lot less bureaucracy and paperwork. We can just deal with town rather than town, county, and everybody else. And, you know, in theory, the money will stay in the town rather than going out to the county, you know, as this grows. Because I mean, our vision is hangars are business and business on the airport development. So we got the land, and then next step, annex. Next step is, you know, start planning, shovel ready for hangar development. Now, we did have a tabletop exercise. One of our things we did do this year to start planning, how do we go ahead and develop hangars? So we got head planning involved, our engineers involved, public works is involved. So we're starting to piece that puzzle together. So we did, you know, and historically what our airport has been doing, you know, just good customer service. That's what we do here as a small airport. A lot of the general aviation is just fly in, you serve yourselves, but we try to focus on customer service. And I think it does pay off. We see a lot of return customer, and a lot of people really enjoy that aspect that we give them. And of course, testing, we've been doing that for, you know, since the early 2000s at the airport, and more and more, we're seeing more and more activity for search and rescue, fire operations. So that sort of plays into our vision back, you know, as I said earlier, you know, hangar development, businesses, that's the part of our vision to become an economic engine for this county, for the town, as well as we want to, you know, be a transportation hub. So right now, it's all privately chartered jets that you see coming in. It's not commercial or chartered service, but, you know, eventually, as we get hangar space to develop, maybe we can get a charter service. So instead of trying to hitchhike to Denver, you can actually get a flight from here to Denver and then out on your holiday into, if you ever go. So those who want to leave the continent of the USA. Explore industries, and that's a big one here. So we want to really start becoming the place for testing, which we are, continue that, but also maybe be the place of choice and, albeit necessity for emergency operations. We have the land, we have the facility, we have infrastructure. So, firefighting, wildland, search and rescue. So, just this year we did the 2020, Twin Lakes. And when I first came on, 2018, we had the Western Pass. So we've got a lot of experience at the airport to be able to handle these larger operations. So again, as we grow and get these spaces, we want to become, not just because of necessity, but a place of choice for these people. We're really strategically located right dead center in the valley. So it is, a good opportunity to capitalize on that. Yeah, the next slide there, I guess. So, and you can see some of the highlights of 24 I had just mentioned. We moved the fence. We did the tabletop exercise for future hangar development. We put in a whole security system now. We got all cameras everywhere in that airport, so we can keep an eye on what's going on. Hats barbecue, a couple other events. We just finished, like I said, we finished the apron project in 23. We just finished design phase, and that was sort of, we'll say, the south apron. Now we're working on towards the north side of the apron area. So we're going to have, the design was just finished. I have a meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to flush out the construction phase for 2025 to start building or refurbishing our current apron on the north side. And that's where our fuel island sits. And then expanding that to allow for more aircraft parking. Fuel island, keep that in the back of your head because it's coming. So, some of our challenges, I'm sure it's just like everybody else, the infrastructure, our building's old, we're slowly fixing things. We got the outside done, the roof done, but I think our major next project is the HVAC system, heating that. It's got a hefty bill, but we're going to try and look for various grants and see if we can offset that. I think we're projecting around $50,000 for entire HVAC, and that includes the furnace and AC, both of which are ancient. I would suspect the HVAC's a little newer, maybe 90s, but the furnace went in when the building went in, in 1980s. So it needs to be done. We're on borrowed time for sure. Some of the equipment, just like everybody else, we're going to get that. North apron expansion, which is the short term, which will happen in 25. That'll sum that project up. So we're going to kind of use that too to potentially get infrastructure in place for potential fuel island. We're going to use some of the funding, some of the project for that. The fuel island, more of a midterm project, which will push out. We were going to try and do it in 25, but I think because the last meeting we had with FAA and CDOT, there is money, but to get turned around and get that money is short. So maybe we're looking at 26, 27, maybe design, start in 26 for the fuel island, finish it in 27. So that's kind of the way we're going to go. Some of the other projects, again, new hangar development. Like I said, we're already getting conditions set, got the fence moved, annex land. Next is trying to get the ground basically developed for that and get going. So we can get shovel ready for hangar development. One of the other things we're looking at for 2025 is right now it's just myself and Chandra are full-time. So you get the airport manager, airport operations specialist. We'd like to bring in the senior line tech as a full-time member. He's working basically full-time as it is anyway. So I may as well so we reward him for the benefits of the hard work he's doing and put him on a full-time staff. And we've been, it's not just because he's there a lot, but we've been tracking some of the numbers. Like I've got some stats here. So from 2020 to 23, because that's the end of the year we did, our personnel coming through that airport increased 53%. So just in that time frame. The large aircraft is up 25%. So when I say larger, we're talking jet traffic. And with that definitely comes services. We can't just pull over there and fill yourself up. We have to do that. So it's increased. We're seeing a lot of increase. So that's why we're hoping that those kind of numbers will help justify saying we need a full-time line tech. And then just aircraft operations since 2020 is up 16% and operations are up 10%. So it's just getting busier. So which is a good thing. So, but it does come at a bit of a cost that, we need to look at managing the staff of what we have. So I guess the big takeaways, 25, we're expanding the current apron we have a little bit more and getting ready for a fuel island. Those are the two big things that we want. And then internally wise, what I'm saying is the HVAC system at the airport. That's our projects. Any questions?
Thank you, Jack.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we have Sean, Public Works.
Wherever you want to. Okay here?
You're okay.
You guys okay? Spend some time, it's a long walk there. I could talk about how plain my slides are, so thanks for going after the visuals there. So, yeah, thanks everybody, appreciate the time on this. Yeah, thanks to the team here and the staff, Philip, Ryan for helping us through this and working on budget together. So yeah, Public Works. Yeah, there's a bunch of us out there. There's 15 full-time, 3 seasonal when we're staffed, right? I'd like 3 keywords. I'll throw the first one out. Delicate ecosystem. And it's really important to have everybody there, everybody hitting on all cylinders. Yeah, we really, with some of the things that we try to do between the capital projects and the operational stuff and the busy season that seems to be a little bit longer every year now. It's, it gets really, really trying. So yeah, delicate ecosystem for sure out there. But yeah, pretty amazing team that we've had. Really good opportunities. I feel like we've improved over the years. I mean, we haven't been able to retain everybody. We lose people from time to time, but I think, like I would just say, it's always improving with the people that we're picking up. Yeah, great group of people. Pretty fortunate to work with the people in the team that we have. So yeah, 15 full-time employees, 3 seasonal, 1 fully staffed, and utilizing several engineering services and consultants to help us get through capital, water needs, water accounting, developing projects and implementing projects. 2024 highlights. Yeah, the one we've been talking about a lot from the top. Water plant expansion project under construction. Goal of being complete in 2024, at least substantially. We'll go for that. We'll talk about that in the near future. But yeah, things are going pretty good there. A lot of people building right now. So we're doing with what a lot of people across this country are doing right now. So, but yeah, some pretty fantastic projects in there. Wrapping up the hydroelectric Providence. Street projects went really good this year. Looking to get those identified for next season and years to come after that. Sidewalk replacement projects, always a cool thing to do. Sidewalk replacements, especially in areas of town that need it. Sunrise Manor, some of the dilapidated sidewalks in the residential neighborhoods. Believe it or not, fairly rewarding to get some of that stuff done. I think operationally, we've been pretty successful keeping up with things and reacting to the unscheduled events, as it comes throughout the season. I guess we go to the next slide. I might be going a little fast because I kind of felt like maybe Jack took a little, I'm joking.
Payback.
Payback, for sure. Yeah. So challenges and opportunities. Yeah, these are both challenges and opportunities for sure. Keeping pace with development. Yeah, as always, challenging and demanding, but a cool thing that we've that we've been able to see, what I've been able to see is that our staff has developed knowledge and, learn how to do this, so it's been a fantastic opportunity to kind of see that growth, picking up new people, new planning team, Joel, Danielle, just a lot of fantastic observations by me that I kind of see that we're doing pretty good there. It is a lot from time to time, but yeah. I feel like our staff has really kind of figured out how to hold their tongue, I guess, with some of that, obviously code and things like that. And kind of part of that public servant relationships with our community that falls into that. I think every once in a while you need to remind certain, if not all of our communities, that we work for them. It's privilege. And I think you just need to remind them from time to time that, we're here for you. And so not always well received, but I think when you're able to communicate and do things, and have common goals or help people with solutions, it's really rewarding for us, and it's a good way to reinforce our relationship with our community. Balancing operations and capital projects. Yeah, some years have been easier than others. This year hasn't been quite as easy, but we're still working hard to do that. The delicate ecosystem with staff, being fully staffed, makes a difference in what we can get done, whether it's in-kind projects or capital projects that are in-kind projects. And those are the ones that seem to get a bigger hit this year, whether it's a community center project or working with some stuff like cemetery fence. I mean, year's not done yet. We still have plans to make a difference there. So anyways, yeah. Developing an asset management and strategic planning. That's just something that I'm always trying to make time to do because it's really important for what we want to do next year, what we want to do the following year after that. And then implementing the water conservation practices and leak detection. That's kind of what we're doing right now. And the goal of having that complete in 2025. Sidewalk replacement and paving, that's kind of a good example of an aspect of the asset management that we want to do. Happy to have the our sidewalk replacement program is fantastic, but it's also great to be able to plan on what sidewalks we'll want to replace in 2027, 2028, and maybe even beyond. Pretty great park team, optimizing the parks department. During our summer months, it's always been challenging. That all kind of falls back on being fully staffed and being able to respond to every summer is busier than the summer before now, kind of a thing. It seems like this kind of feels that way. But yeah, I'm not too sure. We got some projects that we will probably need to roll into the first part of 2025. Maybe a couple projects that we do, wrap up by the end of the year, but we'll just have to see how it goes. But as far as projects and key changes for 2025, I think it's some of the stuff that we've been planning for. So that's, water plant project, well for, continue to invest in our streets and sidewalks, adopt and implement the water conservation plan, roll in stormwater drainage master plan project into 2025. We had it in 2024. Continue to work on our public works team. Move forward with the water conservation master plan, implement practices. Community center landscaping, infrastructure improvements. We were focusing on kind of this side of the side over here. Maybe we can look a little bit closer at what we want to do on the north side as well in 2025. And yeah, let's not quite throw in the towel yet on Arizona Trail. You'll see that in the budget. We'll just say that we put in a little bit of money for engineering to kind of think possibly some new approaches for that intersection down there. We're not done with it yet. Maybe think that there's some things that we can do, and Mark can help us, and maybe consulting engineers can help us as well. There's a stoplight going in south of town.
Oh, is there?
Figure out a way to connect some trails to it and sidewalks. So.
I want to commend you on those nice little maples that are out there on East Main. They're the prettiest trees. They're the ones that they're half red and half green still.
Yeah, autumn blaze. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
You ready?
Perfect timing. So apologies on the late entrance here. There's some miscommunication about the time of this meeting. But I'm here now, perfect timing. So Dean is out, so I am representing him today. So just first part is just a summary. So when we're fully staffed, we consist of 12 officers and 2 administrative assistants. The BVPD's duties include, but are not limited to, the K-9, the tactical team, investigation, school security, drug task force, crime scene investigations, and that just covers some of the specialty stuff as well as just day-to-day calls for service, traffic enforcement, events like the Community Strong Dinner, things like that. The men and women of BVPD serve our community with the highest integrity and honor, and we treat all calls with care and compassion to keep our community safe. Some highlights for the 2024 year is that we got about a $16K in grants for a couple of different things. So that includes rifle rated body armor. This is really important. Most of the body armor that we currently have is about 40 pounds and is not included in our everyday wear, like our regular bulletproof vest that you see us wear every day. So this is really great. They have new technology now where you can get plates that weigh a couple of pounds and can go right into your vest, so that we don't have to throw on an extra vest if we're in a situation and we're just always walking around with that extra protection. That's really important. Another one is the DUI overtime. So we get different grants from the states to do DUI specific enforcement that is paid for by the state. I think later on I'll probably talk about some of our, let's see if it's on here. Our DUI numbers are way up this year in the fact that we've done a lot more or arrested more people DUI. I don't have the numbers, but we're definitely beating our stats from last year, which is, I think, is a good thing. It means we're keeping the streets a lot safer. We also have had an increase in calls for service and handling numerous special events this year. You guys all know how many special events we have. Seems more and more every year. I think that's an accurate assumption. And a lot of those that we're working, we're out there doing that. We've been able to host numerous trainings with outside agencies in our new building. So as you guys know, we have a new building, and within that building is a really awesome training center or training room. A lot of you guys have attended trainings actually in that room, I think, for some of that CIRSA stuff. So some of those trainings, let's see, we've got here, the Central Mounting Training Foundation. We've hosted multiple intoxilizer courses. So those are the machines that we use to test somebody's breath alcohol level. And that's a big training. We've hosted sexual assault and domestic violence trainings. I am working on putting some things on the schedule for 2025 for hosting trainings. There's one I've set up for Blue to Gold. They really focus on legal trainings for law enforcement. That should be coming, I believe, in February. And I'm also working with another foundation, or a foundation is probably not the right word, a group that gets grants from the states to offer free training for law enforcement. Biggest thing is they need a place to host it. And I said, you know what, we've got a great space for that. Let's utilize that. So that's a big win, I think, for BVPD. We've got dispatch training in there, all sorts of different, first responder sort of things are in there. We also had a street naming for one of our fallen officers a couple of months ago. That's going in that new neighborhood over by Crossman. Some projects and key challenges. So one of our projects that we wanted to finish this year was to finish reviewing our policies and update them with something called Lexipol. That has been done, and we received a silver award for that, for excellence in training management. We continue to work with the schools on our standard response protocols with training and drills. This includes, we do trainings with the school every single year about what the standard response protocol or the SRP is. Handouts, anytime that there's an incident, we try to get information out there, things like that. And we conducted a successful reunification drill with the school this spring. We've also continued to partner with Sol Vista and Co-Response. If you have any additional questions, just ask it at the end. I can kind of give you some more information about that. I've been told I can only talk for 10 minutes, so I'm trying to get it all in. You're doing great. So next is kind of talking about some of the challenges and opportunities. So one of the big challenges for our department is staffing, recruitment, and retention. We have had 2 officers move on to other jobs and another leaving in December in 2024. So we spend a lot of time working on hiring and recruitment. And this is a very demanding process for law enforcement. On average, it takes at minimum 6 months to get somebody through, the initial application to the interview, to the background. And if we hire somebody who's not previous law enforcement, that's an additional 3 to 4 months in the police academy before we can even have somebody in a uniform. And then that's another 3 to 4 months until they're on the road and they're part of the schedule and can actually cover shifts. There's a lot of reasons for that recruitment and retention issues, something that we all talk about. So cost of living up here is difficult. It's a topic that we've all talked about. We all know the difficulties of it. It is really hard. And for a lot of the young people who are not already established in the community, it's really hard to find that housing. I was lucky enough to marry someone who already owned a home, and that worked out great for me. But trying to find somewhere to rent before that was extremely difficult. So I do understand the struggles of some of our younger folks in the department that are struggling for that, as well as, the issues of pay and, we're all understaffed and overworked, right? Just that sort of typical stuff. Another challenge is we need to replace a patrol car due to mileage in 2025. I have some information here from Dean on what that cost is, since this is obviously about budget. So it's easily about $75,000 for a new patrol vehicle. So that's the cost of the vehicle itself, as well as all of the extra bells and whistles that go into a police car that is not in your car. Yeah, so we need some new police cars. At this point, a couple of our vehicles are at that point where we are required to retire them as patrol vehicles out there, just due to the mileage that they have. I misspoke, sorry, there's 2 70s here. It's $70,000 for the cost of the vehicle and the outfitting, and we have to replace a vehicle when it reaches 75,000 miles. Sorry for that confusion there. Another thing that we're seeking is funding for the Meridian barricades. You guys may have had a chance to take a look at that at the BB Strong dinner. So that's really valuable for all the special events and the parades that we do have as a community. Law enforcement's first and foremost concern for any of those things is safety. Community Strong Dinner is a great example of that. The community dinner is a great example of that, because we are responsible for the safety of about 3,000 people in a matter of 3 blocks. That is highly compact And we know what sort of safety concerns come with that, and the Meridian barricades is a really good and valuable tool to take some pressure off of all the people working that event, to focus on other issues other than, do we have somebody in a car trying to come through our crowds? That goes for all the other events. You're right, 4th of July parade, Christmas parade, school parades, 14er Fest, all those different, there's a lot of applications for the Meridian barricades, which is why we're asking for that. We're asking for a $20,000 match from the town. And we're gonna try to get the rest of that in grant money. The total cost is $147,000. And this includes 8 barricades with the rapid gate option. And the trailer needed to transport these barricades. The trailer alone is expensive, so it's just a lot. I believe all of this information is on ClearGov. I think you guys are all familiar with that. So that's a big thing we're pushing for, just to help where we can have more of these special events and less worries about safety concerns. There is a possibility that the State Academy grant, which is a grant that we've been using to help fund sending new police officers to the police academy. There's a possibility that the state is yanking that funding. And so we're budgeting for an academy cost for new hires. Like we said, we've got someone leaving in December. So we have to start planning now because of how long it takes, how we're gonna get somebody else in that position. And so the average police academy is about 12,000. And before we were getting some grants and funding that really helped, but there's a pretty decent chance that we're not gonna be able to get that this year. And so that's why we're budgeting for that extra cost, if you see that in there. Some other projects and things is the flock system. So we're hoping to get an installation and implementation of the cameras in 3 different locations to kind of hit all the different avenues into town. You know, flock is not just used for criminal purposes. If you want to use it that way, if we're just checking for people with stolen cars or warrants or things like that. Just a couple of weeks ago, Salida had a couple of missing teens, and they were able to use the flock system to show that they were no longer in Salida and to look elsewhere. So it's an important tool just to be able to see something like that. Right, it's not just used for, hey, this guy's got a stolen vehicle or a warrant or something like that. I think that's great, because I think people who have stolen vehicles in our town, we should not have them in town. That's my opinion on that. Yeah. And then again, the Meridian barricades, I think I already spoke on that a little bit, but that's up there. So we're looking for some grant funding to help with that, as well as some help from the town in that. We were also working on bringing an additional code enforcement officer, which would give us 7 days a week of code enforcement coverage. Right now, we don't have 7 days a week. And part of why we would need 7 days a week is a lot of times on the weekends or different events or things like that, we have a ton of issues, right? With, could be dogs, could be parking issues, those types of things. I can't tell you how many times I've almost pulled my hair out because there's an event and there's just so much parking that I can't deal with it myself because I've got calls for service. So having a code enforcement officer 7 days a week helps get that type of coverage for those types of things, because law enforcement is going to have additional calls for service that aren't going after barking dogs and dogs at large and parking tickets and tows and all that other important stuff that Grant does right now. We are trying to fill this position, but we're having very little interest. We offered the job to 2 different applicants, but they both turned it down. And this was partially due to schedule and partially due to the fact that it's right now a part-time position, which means it doesn't come with benefits. And a lot of people want benefits. And so part of that is looking at whether or not we want to have two full-time code enforcement that work kind of similar shifts to law enforcement, so there's full coverage. Because, and I get it, a lot of people, why would I want to work this job if I'm not going to get benefits on a part-time job? I totally understand that concern for people who have families and things like that. And yeah, we've had excellent community engagement this past year, and we are wanting to continue to pursue building that community trust and relations. That's big with us, and then continuing to ensure officers get top quality training. And part of that is hosting those trainings, as well as the funding needed to send them all over the state. I think I have something here that talks about where we sent some people. So we sent 2 people to forensic interviewing. So for those of you who don't know, for law enforcement or anyone involved in that, when we have to interview a child who is the victim or the witness of a crime, they have to be forensically interviewed. It's a special way to interview kids so that they don't have to go back to court and testify. It's really important that we do that right. And so we sent 2 more people to that training. That's why I'm in plain clothes today and not in a uniform, because I did an interview like that today, and that requires me to dress like a normal person instead of a cop, right? So now we have multiple people other than just me and the others. We also sent a guy to arrest control instructor training that was down in the front range, ground fighting instructor, that's down in the front range, baton instructor, that's down in the front range. Desert Snow, if anybody has heard of that before, it's a huge drug interdiction training. That was since, I don't know if it was out of state, but it was definitely a drive for the officer that went to that. The National Association of School Resource Officers training, that's down in the front range. And I'm trying to think if there's any, I mean, I've gone all the way to Idaho for trainings before. You've got to go a distance sometimes to get the necessary trainings that we need, which is also, right, costs money for lodging, food, all that. Am I over the 10 minutes? Oh, gosh, darn it. Well, that is it. That's all I have for people. Any questions, concerns, complaints, compliments? Send them to Dean.
Thanks, Megan.
Yep.
All right, Shane, hit it.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. You can read everything there. But I wanted to highlight that recreation, the recreation department, we are not just recreation. We also have capital projects, facility rentals and management, and special event permitting, as well as all of the programs and improvements that occur throughout a given year. So currently we have 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees, and 1 full-time position open. Some highlights for this year was we began construction of Billy Cordova Memorial Park. Biggest project by far we've ever undertaken, and a good one to hopefully knock off the list here pretty soon. That's been on the books for over 20 years. Completed some improvements around town on time and under budget, which fairly rarely happens, so feel like I needed to highlight that. We also recovered from our water line flooding, which somehow happened this year. It felt like that was so long ago. We've greatly improved handicap accessibility with our various capital projects, including the ADA door openers that are on track to get installed before the end of the year. Sustaining our high quality of programming with staffing shortages, as well as creating more opportunities and better accessibility for some underserved populations like older adults, neurodiverse teens and young adults, and Spanish-speaking families. We permitted and oversaw over 124 special event occurrences, including 7 new events. So Megan, you were right, there are more events. There were 7 new ones this year. And we restructured our department staff on the fly to address operational issues and promote long-term job sustainability. So some challenges and opportunities, they're fairly similar to what we've been facing the past few years, but they're still our main challenges and opportunities. Identifying a sustainable funding source for our capital projects, sustaining year-round long-term staff, a high demand for our outdoor spaces for events and facility reservations, limited field space and gym time in town, and balancing water needs with rec demand out on the fields, and working with community groups to address the needs of the town facilities they use, like the rodeo grounds and the disc golf course, and all of those other facilities where we have user groups. For 2025, some of our projects and key changes are, we're gonna have 3 new staff members on board by the end of the year. So getting them up to speed on our operations is gonna be very important for next year. Improving our facilities with large and small scale projects. Working towards developing a master plan and getting community input and finding some future funding strategies. Really gearing towards that once the comp plan process is complete and we find a little bit of additional grant funding, and beginning to utilize the renovated McGinnis Gym for rec programs. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
That was really fast.
Good job, Shane.
I think you got at least 5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Appreciate it. Lanning.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. So much different space this year than last year. We have 3.5 people hired for the planning, including myself, for the planning department. So we're fully staffed. One is a recent hire, which is fantastic, really helping a lot with everybody. We've been able to reduce significantly our reliance upon the outside consulting firm for engineering, less so for engineering, but for planning review in particular. So that's been a big budget savings, which is why we were able to hire this other person together with rec. We share that person. Couple highlights this year. We got through Tribune annexation, which was a multiple year endeavor. The crossing also was approved, multiple year endeavor. We've got processes in place for encroachment permits, which hadn't been there. We've got made a lot of progress in terms of how to review permits. Here are some processes, here are checklists, et cetera, how to get a certificate of occupancy, no more drive-by COs, but we look at drainage. We work with Public Works now. We do a lot of coordination so that that property is ready to be lived in, and it is set up for the neighbors and for future use of the properties. We've done many minor subdivisions, and we'll continue to do that. Did another one, finished one today, as a matter of fact. We're really just using these outside consultants right now for finishing up the standards and specs manual that we've been working on since 2020, 2019, something like that. We're almost done, and for major subdivisions right now. So we just get challenges. We're still developing processes, made a lot of progress, but we have more to do. We just discovered a new complete hole in our town process system just yesterday. And it's like, well, we've got to figure this one out. So we have to continue to educate the development community in particular about the code, how to get through the process and what is expected and required, what the code says. There's developing staff capacity, of course. We're always expanding. Like I just said, we are taking on more and more, building the skill set, meaning we're taking on more and more review projects, diving in deeper and able to review better and better. Incorporating GIS and mapping capability. We're involved in this comprehensive plan, which is a significant involvement for all the staff, because right now we're reviewing every week, 3 or 4, documents to give feedback to our comp plan group. And then we, of course, have to attend to water rights and not just get things to the water court, but also increase our sophistication in our water accounting and work ever more closely with public works. The water accounting, the supply, and the demand. So projects and for 2025, Carbonate Street completion and making sure that early childcare center is off the ground. And then starting to look at the second phase of Carbonate, what we want to do with that. Improve the comp plan. We need to continue to work on tracking developer fees. This is another area where there was a lot of expense related to review, but not income coming in from developers. And so those processes are being put into place. We're working on an agreement with Colorado Parks and Wildlife and talking about water augmentation certificates and the potential for that. So that that should be a project in 2025. Begun in 2024, and then there's a host of code refinements, spelling errors, all the way down to making things more clear that need attention in the code. And so that'll be ongoing 2024. You've seen some, and we'll continue that on through the fall and through 2025. So that is all from the planning department. Trying to speed it up.
I go last and I get whatever's left, so I got
Okay,
2 minutes.
all right, we got 4 minutes.
4 minutes,
Yeah.
3 minutes, 3.5. So general administration, administration, finance, HR, information technology, clerk, town hall, elections, municipal court, public support, board of trustees. That all equates to essentially 7 full-time, 2 part-time employees and 2 contractors in the way of the IT and a prosecutor, and then 7 part-time as far as the board of trustees. Highlights kind of listed off there. I'll skip that one to save time. As far as challenges and opportunities, of course, ongoing grant administration and compliance. People think the work stops after you get awarded a grant. In reality, on our side, that's where the work really starts. It takes constant reporting, closeout, stuff like that. So $9 million in active grants makes a pretty hefty lift on that side of things. Meeting the needs and wants within the balanced budget between the multiple departments that we have, as well as the public support requests within kind of a budget that has reduced sales tax growth limitation to it. Continued increase in the cost of insurance. Philip touched on that a little bit. CEBT has been used and really has been going up consistently over the past 5 to 10 years with a 13.5% anticipated increase in 2025. That kind of mandated us to or triggered us to look at other options. And as Philip said, with the $190,000 to $160,000 swing and where the budget was, it's a lever that will most likely need to be pulled unless there's a desire from the board to really be involved in that process. Staff will continue to coordinate. We're making a conscious effort to identify very comparable that provides the exact same coverage as our existing policies for our employees at that reduced cost for the town itself. And so we're looking at what's in network, what's out of network, what are the deductibles, what's the max out of pocket, all the ins and outs. So we're making sure that our employees are still covered. So if you guys have an issue, we'll continue doing that administratively. As far as departments dispersed across multiple aging facilities, we've got 6 of them. The airport needs HVAC system. This facility got new flooring because insurance covered it. And then one thing at the old town hall, we incremental improvements all the time. We're out, Norm and Jackie were out there scraping window seals and repainting. So it's something we take pride in and continue to take care of what we've got. Continued diligence in the water resource capacity and desired improvement as far as multimodal opportunities and increased connectivity throughout town. And then prepare for, of course, the looming town clerk transition, which is only 5 years away.
It's on record now, Paul.
So the project's gonna match up, we got a couple financing, single law, the potential is associated with any time we're getting $750,000 in grants in a given year. So that will be triggered again, migration over to Tyler, always kind of keeping that into consideration. As far as IT and just security of our information. Health insurance, we touched on Pelton Lake Spillway is our next agenda item, we'll get into that. The transportation plan kind of ties the multimodal opportunities. It is from 2004. There is a cautious decision to finish the comp plan and then roll into that. It is probably a $150,000 project. And so that is something that we will pursue grants both at the state level, DOLAS, CDOT, try to stack them. Concerted effort as far as Steel Drive, we met with PUC, identify where the application is, how to fill it out, and it will require some preliminary engineering. And then take care of what we got, the historic town hall. The front doors is a small project we'd like to get done. If you ever look at them, one, the original hardware is there, the amount of craftsmanship that went into those things back in the day. It is kind of stable in the community. People actually stand out and take photos in front of the town hall, and there's plenty of me in the background through the. But there's cracks, open air on the top and the bottom. We hold one door shut with cardboard on the bottom. The lock is locked, but to make sure it's locked, it has a pin cap. BIC is the preferred pin cap. With a piece of tape on the outside. That one we have basically acquired a grant in preparation for that project. And then infrastructure mapping, that's a big one, I think, a holistic view of infrastructure was an outcome of that work session. We've kind of turned on GIS for starting with our water and incorporating sewer while we're at it. That creates the platform to start piling in all kinds of other layers, which Carolyn and the planning department's already taken the initiative to say where are our sidewalks, where are our trails, where are our gaps. So we'll focus on that.
And that's an awesome team right there.
Great team.
Thank you, everybody.
Terrific.
And get the details next time.
Thank you all for the work you put into this. Good. So, we could take a 1-minute break and then we will continue the regular meeting.
I'm a host.
Uh-oh.
Ready, Brian?
Ready.
Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Trustees for the town of Buena Vista, Colorado. This is September 24th, 2024, and the time is 7:08. Please silence your cell phones if you have them with you. And Paula, would you please call the roll
Mayor Fay,
here?
trustee Height. Here. Trustee Lucrezi.
Here.
Trustee Rice.
Here.
Trustee Rosenauer. Trustee Rowe.
Here.
And trustee Swisher.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, moved.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Trustees, you have before you a proposed agenda. Does anyone have any changes that they'd like to see in the agenda? If there are none, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
so we have Hike and Lucrezi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the agenda is adopted. And then we also have the consent agenda, which includes several minutes from Planning and Zoning, Tree Advisory Board, and our own meeting, as well as the Town Administrator Report, the Town Treasurer Report, the Recreation Director, and the Airport Manager Report. In addition to that, we have a resolution, number 65, which is appointing Wendy Gordon as a regular voting member of the Tree Board. And we'd like to thank Wendy for her volunteerism in the Tree Board. So in your packet, you have her application. So are there any items within the consent agenda that anyone would like to pull out as business items instead? Are there any other kinds of changes in the consent agenda? And hearing none, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. I'll make that one.
Okay, so we have Swisher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Lucrezi? Great, thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is adopted. Well, is bringing the clipboard. Paula? Thank you. So we're now going to have our part of the meeting that is called public comment. So people who arrive here and sign in on the clipboard may have 3 minutes to give us their comments on topics of interest to them. So the first person on the list is Liz Morgan. Liz, please approach the podium and give your name and address for the record.
Okay, so I've got some handouts you guys can pass around. There's only 10, so give you them up however works. Thank you. My name is Liz Morgan, 120 South San Juan Ave in Buena Vista. I'm here on behalf of the Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce. So the Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce is excited to request funding from the town of Buena Vista to assist the chamber and our Welcome Center survive and thrive in 2025. The chamber is seeking funding from the town because we need your assistance while we enact our longer-term financial plan, and because it is entirely normal throughout the state of Colorado and across the country for towns and cities to help fund or fund in full welcome centers run by their local chambers of commerce. It is very typical for a town in Colorado to offer anywhere from 25,000 to 65,000 in supportable local welcome center. And this is common practice throughout the state. Welcome centers help drive sales tax dollars. And so some of that funding often goes towards welcome centers. The town of Basalt, with a population of just over 4,000 people, has a contract for services with their chamber for $178,000 per year to operate the welcome center, which is a great indication of what it actually costs to fully operate the welcome center. After a year of hard work, strategizing, deep listening, relationship building, and visioning, the board of directors and I feel quite confident that we are on track to reinvent and stabilize the welcome center and the chamber to serve our community for years to come. But we aren't there yet, and we need your help to bridge our financial reality and help us get to a place of financial stability. So our financial reality is this. In years past, the BV Chamber has brought in about $248,000 per year. In 2024, as all of our previous fundraisers were no longer under our purview after the problems in 2023, we brought in only $43,000, almost all in membership dues. We're proud of this membership income as it represents 216 members and represents local folks who believe in our vision and our leadership team. In years past, additional funds were brought in through advertisement sales, cornerstone sponsorships, events and event sponsorships, vendors, beer gardens, and grants. All of this was lost as we continue to recover from 2023. We do have a plan to raise funds in 2025, but we really need your help as a bridge to get us there. The board of directors has voted to request $45,000 from the town of Buena Vista. Funds will be used to cover part of the rent and utilities at the welcome center. 2, to conduct fire safety, leave no trace, and responsible recreation messaging and outreach to keep our town safe. 3, grant writing and fundraising for the welcome center. And 4, to build capacity for welcome center operations and communications. For these reasons, we request $45,000 in funding from the town of Buena Vista. Our financial report is attached. I'm happy to answer questions about that. In conclusion, the board of directors and I thank you for your consideration of this request. We greatly appreciate your dedication to our community, and we look forward to productive and fun collaborations in the future.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
The next speaker is on the same general topic, and this is Elaine Wolf. Your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening. My name is Elaine Wolf, and my address is 1101 River Park Road. I'm a member of the Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce Board and a relatively recent transplant. Here, some of you may know my husband, Michael Westheimer. He is an alternate on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Michael and I chose to move to BV in 2020 after years of vacationing here, in no small part because of the unique flavor and vibrancy of its local businesses. I've been a small business person most of my adult life, including journalism, home renovation, and sales. My father was an independent insurance agent, so I'm always aware of the way the success of a town and its businesses are intertwined. When visitors feel welcomed and excited about spending time here or even relocating here, we all succeed. It's been so much fun to volunteer in the Welcome Center this summer, to meet visitors from all over and to help them find ways to support and participate in our town. It is a key central marketing and outreach resource for our members, and I saw that when I was there. I'm excited about Liz's and the board's vision for the chamber as a forward-thinking, inclusive organization for our entire community. Please consider investing in the chamber and the Welcome Center. It is a responsible and smart use of our public dollars. Thank you so much.
Here, Elaine. And then we have Kathy Harbeck.
Mayor,
Yes.
I did not get a copy
Oh.
of what the chamber passed out, so I would like one later. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
My name is Kathy Harbeck. I am a longtime resident of Buena Vista. There's several familiar faces on the panel right now that have probably known me well. My husband and I moved here in 20 years ago, and we bought Arrowhead Point Campground, which probably most of you remember as Crazy Horse. I'm also a board member of the chamber, third term, over 20 years. So I am a firm believer in the Welcome Center and the Chamber, and I'm here to support Liz and to see the Chamber and the Welcome Center continue. A couple of things I wanted to mention personally. When my husband and I moved here and bought Arrowhead Point, I'm here to tell you, and several of you know what we took over. And if it wasn't for the Chamber and the community, I'm not too sure we would still be here. So we ended up selling, and we love the community so much. We stuck around, and I now work for another company, First Colorado, and I just felt like I wanted to give back for what the community gave to us. One other thing I wanted to mention, my husband and I were over in Aspen this past weekend, and we rode our bikes on the Rio Grande Trail. We ended up stopping in the visitor center, got to talking where we were from, and I was a board member, and immediately the volunteers said, please come by and give us more relocation guides. We're totally out and send people your way constantly. So I'm here in support of the Chamber and my belief in the community and my passion. So any financial support that you can grant the Chamber is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time.
And then the next public comment is from Colleen Fitzgerald. Please give your name and address for the record.
I am Colleen Fitzgerald, and it's 16403 County Road 356-10. Actually, I'm representing the Trail Advisory Board tonight, so I wanted to just come and talk to you a little bit about that. But before I get there, I do have to say I would be remiss. My husband, and I did not know this, he's a volunteer for the Chamber, and we were in Lake City this afternoon, knocking on the Chamber door to get information, so he'll be talking with you. So I was pleasantly pleased to see them here as well presenting. So, but the Trail Advisory Board, this is my second term with the Trail Advisory Board. I've been before the Board of Trustees and Mayor before to talk a little bit about the importance of that, which I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you that, but how much our trails in town really enhance the quality of life for locals and visitors. It's about safe ways to schools. It's about kids getting to where they need to be safely. It boosts our economic growth, which again, I think we all know that. The explosion of the e-bikes has been amazing. And again, we need to take a look at how our trail system accommodates those. It improves environmental stewardship. Oftentimes, Earl will have a group of Southwest Conservation to come and do work, and there's a lot of collaboration that happens that's needed when our trails get hit in the flood like we just did this spring, and we don't have the ability for Public Works to come out and work on that right away. It strengthens the connectivity. I think we're finding as the new subdivisions or these housings are being built, we need to focus on the connectivity between all these communities. The Billy Cadorva Park is going to be a great asset, but again, we need to focus on getting people to and from there safely. It fosters community well-being. We've worked hard with Earl and Sean, obviously, but there's some things we really need to take a look at, and it's taking care of what we have. If you haven't been on the railroad trail, and I know we're hoping to take a look at that and repave that in 25, but again, that's been that way, and that's a big route for our students to get to school down there. Plus, with the new stoplight, are we going to be able to connect it? And that's something that's been on a list for a while, and hopefully we need to move forward with that one. Bike lanes throughout our neighborhoods. I don't know if you've noticed, but going down Main Street, on a good day, you'll see a lot of the bikers come right down the middle. And yet, because that's the safest place for them to be, because the sidewalks are crowded, we know that. But it's important that we start really taking a look at our signage and how we can map out our bike trail system within the town. The Greg Drive Trail needs some love. I'll just leave it at that. We all know that one, I think, too. We talked about the housing, but I know in the next year, we're gonna be doing more of a major comprehensive plan to take a look at it. But I'm here to just remind you that, you know, sometimes we can't always wait another year. And if there are some things that we can get done a little bit sooner without all the, and I heard you say that, you know, the grants and some of that, it's an administrative burden. And so maybe there's other ways we can think. And as a board, we would love your input on other creative ways to come up with some funding to just kind of accomplish some of these things here.
Thank you, Colleen. That's the end of our public comment period meeting. So now we'd like to welcome Terry Skanga and Gracie. We'd like to hear about Cottonwood Lake.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting us here. Just to start with, I kind of want to give you a little background. Some of you probably know, been around long enough, but about 10 years ago, we entered into actually a series of agreements starting in 2014. The second agreement is what we're going to be talking about, which regarding the agreement regarding Cottonwood Lake and any kind of expansion we can do on Cottonwood Lake. It involved a couple other items, but mainly that was the main gist of that agreement that was signed in August of 2015. So we've been at this a long time, and I know I've been working on this to try to create more resilience for the town of Buena Vista on Cottonwood Creek for at least 25 years. So it's been a long time coming, and I think this is one of the thresholds, and that is the rehabilitation of Cottonwood Lake and recovery of storage space that's there, so that we have storage space that we can use and share with the town of Buena Vista. So I've got with me Gracie Goodwin. Gracie is a water resource specialist with the district. She does water accounting, a lot of really exchanges and movement of raw water for the district, and for even the town of Poncha Springs. So she has a lot of experience in that, but she wears two hats. The second hat is she's the grant and project implementation manager. So I'm going to introduce Gracie Goodwin and have her, and she lives here in Buena Vista too. So you might like that part. She knows more about this project probably than I do. But anyway, I'll let Gracie introduce her and have her present.
Thank you all for having us and letting us be able to come and present, kind of share some great information that has been in the works, as Terry said, for a long time. So I'm Gracie Goodwin. I live here in BV, work down with Terry in Slida at Upper Ark. And I've been there about 5 years. This project has kind of been in the works. We finally have gotten to a place where we can actually take it to hopefully the final line. Part of that, as kind of you guys have been talking about as well, is funding and getting grants. I'm also a part of the Arkansas Basin Roundtable and have presented this grant. Once we get your guys' approval and consent as well, then I can apply for a water supply reserve grant through Colorado Water Conservation Board, which will help offset a lot of the costs. And so kind of just want to kind of go over some of the basic slides. A lot of you are pretty familiar with Cottonwood Lake. It's my kid's favorite place to fish. I love watching the acrobatic fish up there. They're the craziest fish you've ever seen. And it's just a great recreation place, but it's also important for us in our district for augmentation supply, water supply, and really important for the town of BV as well. Right now, you guys have a little bit of storage, but with this new design and improvement, would be able to gain a lot more storage in the reservoir. So kind of project overview is replacing there's some leaks and deterioration with the current dam. It's still working, but the way the design is now, it's a straight dam, and we'll see some different pictures. But the gate doesn't allow you to release all the flows. You can only go down the first like 1.4 feet. And so there is this big section of an inactive water storage that we can't release. And so that's what a lot of this is going to help with. So the new outlet structure is going to include 2 different gates and a stop lock. So there's going to be a lot more flexibility, a lot more control. We'll see a picture of the design here in a minute. So it's going to increase the outflow potential and enhance our exchangeable flows, which is really important to be able to, if we need to make releases of water downstream, which at times is great and you need to, but you need to be able to get the water back up to replace it. And then, as I mentioned, regain access to the inactive storage pool, pretty much doubling the accessible storage space in the reservoir. So the goal that I'm trying to get from this grant at the end is have a bid-ready design, contract, construction drawings, overall make it a safer dam for the town, all of our structures, and then just increase water supply for Upper Ark and the town of Beaver. So these are just a couple pictures of what's up there. It's more of a straight across dam. It has kind of the metal plate on top. That outlet that you're seeing right there has been abandoned and caved in, so it's no longer operable, but that's not one we mainly use. We have a gate that's the primary one. So this is kind of the picture of the gate where you can release it's top down lowering structure, and you can get the top like 1.4 feet, which leaves another it's only a 3-foot tall dam. So you're only getting about half the water being able to release it. Here's a few pictures of just over time, some of the deterioration that's happened in the concrete, in the spillway, that by replacing this will help fix something that in a few more years is possibly needed. So with this grant application, there are 3 tasks. The first one is more of the engineering and dam safety design and submittal. So working with our engineer on just the final design, the construction drawings. We have to submit that to dam safety, get approval from that. Our engineers are working with to get our special use permit from the Forest Service. And then we'll go through the bid contracts and bidding contracts on that. Task 2 is more the actual nuts and bolts, the construction piece. Mobilization is actually a bigger piece, a more expensive piece than you think. Sometimes it does take a lot to get up there. That road, it doesn't seem that far. That last section, you have to go pretty slow, and it takes a while in getting everything up and back, having to just contain the site, prepare it, erosion control, and then dewatering, putting a cover dam, making sure we have a way to bypass flows to keep with all the stream and regulations we'll need. And then we're going to pretty much be able to tear out all the existing infrastructure of the current spillway and dam, and we'll be replacing that with a whole new structure. We do have some monitoring equipment up there that will need to come out and then be replaced back. And then, of course, at the end, we'll need to re-veg, make sure everything's cleaned up. The final task is project management, grant management. And as Brian knows best, the grant work, getting the grant is a big chunk, but it continues for a long time after. It is a smaller dam, so some people might not know jurisdictional dam, some of the criteria, because you might not think, oh, well, it won't have to hit some of the same standards as like these big dams. But since it is, it's not greater than 10 feet in height. Like I said, it's only about 3 feet. But the surface area of Cottonwood Lake is more than 20 acres. And it does hold more than 100 acre feet of volume. So that's what puts it into that criteria. Okay, here is what the tentative design will be. So kind of on the top, you can see the little tree up there. So that's on the water side. When you're looking at the dam. So instead of it being straight across as it currently is right now, it's going to be more of like this inverted V, which is actually going to increase the length of the spillway, allowing more water to be able to come over. Where it's kind of in the blue, you'll see that little spot. There's 2 gate controls, and then there's a stop block control. So especially this is important when there's high flows. When there's high flows coming down, to be able to pass as much as you can there. But if we want to be able to exchange, you have to be able to lower the reservoir, make a hole to be able to exchange water up. And so right now we don't have as much capacity of that. With what we have, this will definitely double pretty much our bypass capacity. Yeah, then I'll kind of talk about the regaining of storage pool in the next couple slides. Okay, so this is kind of more of a cut side view of the lake. It was originally built on a natural lake, and so that's the bottom. There's 35 acre surface area of the natural lake. You have the 3-foot dam, and then that creates 125.3 acre feet of storage. So right now, with Upper Ark gets the first 50 acre feet of usable space. So we're in the kind of like right now, that's what that is. And with this new design, since we'll be able to have all the different controls to be able to access that whole 3 feet, we're going to have about 75.3 additional usable space, like accessible to make releases. What this kind of means to the town of BV, which is, so that top, we would still have the top 50, well, it doesn't necessarily go in theirs, but we would have 50. And then of that extra additional space, that's where you can kind of see the yellow and the green, where BV would actually get the bulk of that additional space. About 47 acre feet, which is about 63%, and Upper Ark would get an additional 27 acre feet. Why is this kind of important? A lot of this is kind of for the grant, but it's always good to know as well. It's new storage in the Arkansas Basin. Storage and reliability for augmentation, for municipal and industrial uses, creating more water supply on a crucial area. Cottonwood has always been kind of a pinch point over at times for water. So creating more supplies on an important reach. And it's great collaboration. Forest Service, Upper Ark, the town of BV, coming together on a project like this. There's local support, and then augmentation is big for us, because that's kind of what we do, and that overall helps us meet our compacts. So here's the probably more important slide to you guys. It's kind of the breakdown. Total project is about $917,000. And I'm going for grant funding from the Arkansas Basin funds, 91,000, statewide funds, 458,000. So total grant funds that we're going for is 550,206. So a big chunk of this we're hoping to actually get funding for. And then the match piece of that would be 366,000. That would kind of come from the town of BV and Upper Ark. In that, the numbers you see on there for the town of BV, like $220,082. That's kind of based on that additional space. It was more of a 63 and 36% split. We're doing the cost based on like a 60-40 to keep it just easier. So that's kind of based on this design. Once everything's constructed, we will redo and they'll do the as-built. So these numbers are pretty good, but there is a little bit of room for variation after you build it. They might switch just a little bit based on kind of after you get up there. And I think that is, next steps. So we are submitting the hydrology report and design to the SEO for dam safety approval. We have been working for a long time diligently. Terry's put a lot of time and effort with the special use permit approval, and we're expecting to hear back on the decision on that in early spring of next year. One thing I think you see in your packets is like a letter of support / commitment for this grant. And the grant review, this will go to CWCD. Well, so the grant application is due October 1st, and it would go to them for review January meeting. So we would probably get a contract if everything goes smooth, probably like March, April timeframe. Ideally, we would want to get contractors and hope to start it probably as early as next fall. What questions do you guys got?
Questions?
I have a couple questions. Are the bid documents and construction drawings, are they complete?
Not yet.
What percentage design are you at?
So the design had to be submitted to the Forest Service with a special use permit. So basically, the only thing we need to do is get the bid drawings done so we can go to bid. So it's just the bid sets.
Yes, I'm curious, how far out are you from getting bid drawings done?
We can probably get bid drawings in a matter of a couple of months.
Is that your plan? And then, right now, you're only able to access 1.4 feet, or the design will allow you to like access all 3 feet, is that correct?
So you remember that crushed pipe that you saw there? That pipe was put in so they could access this lower storage portion. And sometime, I don't know when it was, years ago, that was damaged. And so we haven't been able to we've never been able to access that. So that dam.
So right now.
We acquired that dam in 1990, in the early 90s, and we couldn't access it then. So we were able to work with the Forest Service to get a permit to be able to use that top 1.4 feet. So that's why the gate there was designed the way it was. The special use permit gave us the right and the authority to utilize 50 acre feet. So that's why that was designed that way, but we still couldn't access that lower storage. So what this will do, by redesigning, removing that structure, redesigning the dam, we'll be able to access that.
Yeah, so you'll get access to all 3 feet of the head that.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, right now we have access to about like 61 acre feet with the top.
Right.
And then that lower section that is kind of the inactive pole right now is about 63 acre feet.
And then you made a comment that something may change based on as-built drawings. Can you elaborate what I didn't quite follow what you
I just wanted, like, our design is set, but as you know, with any construction, when you do as-built, numbers could change slightly. Since I'm talking in like 73.3, it could be or 75.3, it might be 75. It could be that,
Could be 80.
yeah, we
So-
could gain more space by the time after we do our ads bill.
But you mentioned that in terms of on the slide with the cost. You weren't referring, are you going to reallocate costs based on as-built?
Let me explain. So the contract between us, the agreement between us says that the first 50 acre feet goes to Upper Ark. Then the additional usable space that we get.
And the first 50 you already have access to. That's how the lake currently operates.
This is what the agreement says. The first 50 acre feet goes to Upper Ark. Of the additional usable space, which we calculate based upon our engineered drawings and the bathymetric survey, 75.3 acre feet is what it would be. Okay. Of that, the first 20 acre feet of the additional usable space goes to the town of Buena Vista. And then the remainder is split 50-50.
Gotcha.
So we don't know, once we construct this, and we look at the as-built space and do it, and we'll have to redo a survey again. Once we redo that survey, then we're gonna know exactly what we really got.
It'll be in this ballpark.
Right. So let me give you an example. We did a rehabilitation of North Fork Reservoir. North Fork Reservoir was somewhere around 590 some acre feet. Well, when we drained the reservoir to replace the outlet structure, we found out that the way the piping for the outlet was designed, it was designed as an elbow, as an L shape. So the water would come in like this through a tube and then come out. Well, what we did is we just cut that tube straight off and went straight. And we gained another, we're over, what, 602 acre feet. So we gained quite a bit of extra space. So those are the kind of things we don't know when you get into this kind of construction on reservoirs. Until you see that as-built, you really don't know the exact number. That's what we're referring to. So the dollars are based upon that percentage of allocation of the additional usable space.
So do you expect at the end of the project a bit of a truing up that maybe we owe you a little money or?
Sure. Yeah, that's what will happen. Absolutely. So we'll have to true it up and see where we're at once that's built. So that's why I use 60-40. I told Gracie, I said, use 60-40, then use 63-36, whatever it is, because we're trying to get exactly something we aren't sure that it's going to be exactly 75.3 acre feet. It could end up being 80 acre feet, which I hope it does. For sure. But, you know.
Do you anticipate doing like a cofferdam construction, or will you lower it down to the natural?
Yeah, I think that we'll have to do a cofferdam because that's an on-stream reservoir.
Yeah.
So we have to allow the stream to pass. And pumping is much more expensive than putting a cofferdam in. But we won't know that until we get with the contractor and see what they prefer. They may want to pump.
Or just knock a hole in it and let it all drain down to the natural pool?
Yeah, you could do that, but you're still going to have to pump water over the structure when you start to build it.
Yeah, so the means and methods have yet to be determined.
Right, we won't know that until we get a contractor.
But yeah, there'll be some sort of kind of dewatering or cofferdam, yes. And have the bypass structures that we're passing in.
Thanks.
Would there be any point in dredging the lake to make it deeper?
So if you do the calculation, dredging doesn't really pay off. 1 acre foot, so an acre is 43,560 square feet. With that, and so again, 1 foot deep. The amount of material and the number of truckloads that would have to be removed to get 1 acre foot is much more expensive than raising the dam an inch. 1 inch is, so that's what, 30 some surface acres? Yeah. So you're by raising it 1 inch, you get more than 1 acre, a lot more than 1 acre foot. So you raise it 1 foot, you got 30 some acre foot of space of gain. To dredge 30 acre feet out of there in terms of material and cost is ridiculously high. We just don't do that.
And then you have to figure out what to do with all the materials.
Oh yeah, you got that part too. Then you got the environmental piece too.
Yeah.
Which is that'll cost you probably $2 or $3 million just the environmental review. If you did dredging.
Other questions?
I did think of one more.
You have another one?
This is endless, but go ahead.
We're here.
So with access to more of the storage space there, in normal years, do you envision seeing a more active fluctuation in Cottonwood Lake in future years once you have access to it?
What do you mean by normal? Average years?
Yeah.
So in average years, I don't use the word normal because there's no such thing.
Pardon me.
Colorado. That's all right. So in an average year, you're asking, is there going to be a fluctuation?
Do you envision utilizing more of that storage in average years with the public? Which should the public anticipate seeing more fluctuating levels in Cottonwood Lake?
No, I don't
have access to it.
No, that's going to be based on our demands. So.
And the weather.
And weather and demand. So if your demands increase in the town and your reliance on this facility to meet your water obligations increases, then there probably would be a little bit more fluctuations. But there's a lot of hydrology involved in calculating changes in the level of the reservoir. So for example, we're putting in a bigger a dam that has more perimeter to it. So therefore you've got more area, surface area to be able to spill more water. Okay. When you do an exchange, Gracie mentioned this, but let me explain how that works. To do an exchange means that you're going to move water upstream without a pump, basically. And the way you do that is by what we call substitution. So what would happen is if there is not a call, a sweeping call on Cottonwood Creek, in other words, a ditch that's taking all the water available because it's short, which would be the Truck Creek Company ditch, which is typical in a dry year especially. Okay. You wouldn't be able to make an exchange. You wouldn't be able to refill that reservoir. Okay. So in an average year, you would be able to, because when that's not sweeping, you can make an exchange. So say the town wants to move project water it owns in Pueblo Reservoir, and they want to put it into Cottonwood, so it could be used as an emergency vessel for emergency use. That's the reason you have this, is for emergencies. Okay. So what you would do is you would, if the calling water right was below Pueblo Reservoir, that's who water is on the stream is owed to. You would release the water that water right would normally get from the stream. You would release it out of your storage in Pueblo Reservoir. In exchange, you would take a like amount of the inflow going into Cottonwood Lake, and you would store it there. That's the only way we can operate this reservoir. We don't have, none of us have a senior enough storage right to be able to store water in priority. We store everything by exchange. So you own a storage decree along with us of 75 acre feet. And we have 75 acre feet in that same decree. I can't remember the number, 96 something is when it was filed. Okay, so the only way we can fill that is by exchange. To do that, you have, if that reservoir is full, you can't make an exchange. So what happens is, as you use water out of the reservoir, other water can come into that reservoir, and that's called an administration account. It's not your water, it's not Upper Ark's water, it's the system's water. In order to make that exchange, if that reservoir is full, say you wanted to move 5 acre feet up there from Pueblo Reservoir, and all the conditions were right on the stream, you would have to reduce the storage capacity in that reservoir by 5 acre feet. You have to make a hole, basically. You have to lower it to be able to make that exchange. Right now, we're at the point that many times we cannot lower the reservoir level because we can't pass enough of the stream flow coming down. This new dam will allow us to do that. That's what she means by increasing the exchangeable potential.
So my question was, the frequency of those exchanges would have the water level going up and down.
Depends.
Should we
on,
expect to see more of that?
No, I don't think you're going to see anything different than what you have right now, unless your demands increase. If your need for water increases beyond your other water resources, yes, you will see more fluctuation.
For years, Upper Ark uses it the same way.
Same thing. Same thing. Upper Ark too. So if we have more and more demand, and we have no other water resources besides Cottonwood Lake coming online, you will see more fluctuations in that. And it is intended to fluctuate. A reservoir, by definition, is intended to fluctuate. That's why it's called a reservoir. It's storage to be used later on. It's a bank account. Okay, but you also want to have the ability to refill it. That's why we're building the dam. That's why I was explaining exchanges. That's the ability to refill. We're increasing the ability to refill because of the structure, ability to bypass. That makes sense?
Any other questions?
Yeah, let me say a few more things because I think we're hitting on something here called water demand more than anything. So if this was the only resource we had on Cottonwood Creek to meet water demands, then your question about fluctuations and the importance of that and the impact would be right on. But thankfully, this isn't our only resource. So we have storage in Rainbow, we have storage in Cottonwood. Those are the storage vessels. We're looking at a alluvial storage project on some of the Young Life lands up here on the middle Cottonwood. Okay. So we have direct flow water rights. You have direct flow water rights. We're gathering those. We just gained some of the Cottonwood irrigating ditch water rights. So over 100 and some acre feet. So you also have moved your demand, and that's something we've been working on for 20 some years here with Buena Vista, with Upper Arcast. We have moved a lot of your demand to the main stem, Arkansas River, and taken it off of Cottonwood Creek by putting in well number 3. And I know you have plans to add more to that. So that reduces the need for vessels like Cottonwood Lake. So that's the key. You can't put all your eggs in one basket when you're working with water resources. You have to have multiple avenues, multiple resources. So this is one small piece of the resource. And I mentioned earlier, I said, this is something you use in an emergency. You use this when you have all those other resources don't work. You may have to use this. And I think your use over the past 10 years that I've noticed, you've been able to get by with a few acre feet of space in that reservoir, storage in that reservoir. And I think that was for your well number 2, if I remember. Well number 2 triggers some demand, and I can't remember the exact specifics of that. But it triggers a demand at certain times when you don't have a lot of exchanges, no exchange you can make to augment the stream. You've had to pull out of Cottonwood Lake a little bit, but it's about 2 acre feet. So that's not a lot. So we're talking about a very big bank account here, is what you're talking about, as compared to that 2 acre feet. So I think the fluctuation answer to your question is fluctuations will increase in that reservoir if the demand for water exceeds your available resources. The answer to that is yes. But the construction of this won't. Just because of the construction of this and doing this does not increase the fluctuation.
It just gives you guys kind of some more storage and reliability, kind of that backup emergency.
Gives you more.
Well, you're getting some benefit out of this.
Absolutely.
It's not just us, it's.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
You are absolutely correct.
And that's why we've been working on it for such a long time.
Yeah, this is
For a real long time.
right. Well, you know what I always say, most water projects are 25 to 50 years, bigger projects. And for us here in this small creek, Cottonwood Creek, this is a big project. When you look at by scale. But when we're talking projects, the enlargement of Pueblo Reservoir concept started, just to give you a comparison, started in the 1990s. That was over, what, 25, 26, 27 years ago. It was called PSOP, Preferred Storage Option Plan, which I think you folks are a participant in that. The Preferred Storage Option Plan hasn't been built yet. The Arkansas Valley Conduit, which is being built right now, was thought of and was on the board to do in 1962. And they're just now starting, they're just starting it last year. That's water projects. Water projects, we call it water time. 25, 50 years, most of the horizons. Okay.
Again, thank you guys. And if any other questions come up, feel free to email, call. Brian knows how to get a hold of me as well. So thank you for
thank you all.
letting us have some time to play.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are to consider the approval of a letter of support for this project for the grant application. All right, that's what we're out of this with. So I think there's a letter of support in here.
Do you need a motion to approve that letter?
Yeah, it's on page 100.
I move we approve the letter of support for the project.
Second that.
Okay, so we have Rice and Rowe. Is there further discussion?
Just to point out, as a reminder, the way the letter is written, it doesn't obligate the town. It states the town will prioritize those monies because it isn't in next year's budget. So just for clarity.
Talked about what to probably talk about next, a big key component of our water portfolio that is missing is storage. So this will be a huge thing to help us with that.
Great. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the letter of support?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. We'll sign the letter of support and get it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Very informative. I like the solution.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing we have is that Joel is going to give us an overview of the town's water rights and what they mean.
Water, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great, and I appreciate Terry and Gracie talking about that particular storage component and giving a little more background through that presentation. So this is, over the years, we always try to have a water kind of one-on-one, talking about water rights in particular, and specifically just as a refresher. And so that's what we're doing this evening. If you want to get in deeper into anything, we can always invite either our water engineer or a water attorney to give further discussion. Anyway, so a lot of this you should have seen in the past. So we'll talk about 3 different buckets of water: the existing portfolio, kind of this project water. I guess it's expanded beyond project water in the slides, but water that's coming online, and then and potential water. And then we'll get into we'll see. So again, we've got really good winter water rights. We got 10 CFS of winter water rights, very senior, very secure, and we're very happy with them. At some point, as we bring on more and more irrigation water, we do have to keep an eye on what the winter water is doing as well, because we need to service everybody throughout the year. So we want, of course, have irrigation during the winter months, but we have to keep an eye on that. So we've got 3 CFS on Cottonwood Creek during irrigation season that are very secure water rights. In addition, we've got of that three CFS, including of all of our junior water rights, we have quite a bit of junior water rights. But we don't count them for anything because they're so junior. None of it is adjudicated for storage. And so any new rights are gonna have to be, hopefully we can use that for storage, except for this project water, which we'll get into. So, okay. We also have this 0.88 CFS of Cottonwood irrigating ditch. Technically, it's one CFS. It's split 0.12 and 0.88. 2 different years of priority, but it's all subordinated through this agreement to St. Charles Mesa. So we don't include that. So we have 3 CFS. We're still looking for ways to be creative with that. And then we have the Gorell ditch, which is used in our gallery system that was adjudicated. We could get some dry up credits for that. So if we prove dry up for some of the Gorell Meadow, we can get some credits for that. But we don't advise really looking at that yet. We're not in a position where we need to do that. I think it opened more can of worms at this point than anything. We also have the Leesmont ditch. So that also went through water court in 1989. That would require the dry up of the big meadow, the 63 acres kind of on Crossman. There's no dry up covenants tied to that. So we're at the mercy of the landowner for getting any dry up of that. So any development that is proposed, it's within our municipal services area. So we should require an immediate covenant, associated with that. Doesn't mean we have to dry it up there, but we have to have the rules of the game put in place for how that dry up would look like. So we need to keep that in mind. And those two together, that'd be a significant addition to our water right, but they're not included in counts right now because they're not available. The Leesmont, unfortunately, the way the decree is written, the Gorell has partial dry up language, meaning you have 10 acres, you can prove dry up of 3 of the acres, we get 3 acres of water. The Leesmont doesn't contemplate partial dry up, it just talks about drying up the entire thing. And so depends on, maybe we'll try with a different water commissioner to get a different ruling than we did. We had I think 17 acres dried up a few years ago. So.
Do you not have the amounts listed there just because that's so subject to how in the world dry up would be?
Well, it also depends on the month of the year. So in April and May, it's a different amount. In June and July, it's a little bit different, and it goes down.
But they're fairly ancillary at this point.
It would be helpful for that St. Charles Mesa, or it could be helpful for some other in-stream flows or some SFEs for housing as well, but depending, we would need to look at it a little bit more. We've got the 50 acre feet. We purchased 5 acre feet in 2024, and we could potentially purchase 5 to 20 in 2025. What you guys know, Terry. Great. But that's coming in the budget. We also have the Bray Allen. It's being evaluated. We're expecting to file a water court in 2024. We also have this dry field, which has some other strategic planning involved with that we'd have to discuss. So we also have, so here's this map, just to get you orientated. The Leesmont's on the Big Meadow, Gorell's further up, and our treatment gallery, Cottonwood Lake, which we've been talking about, is way up on that south stem of Cottonwood Lake. We've got the dry fields 10 miles to the north, and the Bray Allen is cleared out by Fish Bridge. The diversions by Johnson Village, north of Johnson Village, and it flows down to Fish Bridge in the ditch.
And that Town Farm dry field, those are Arkansas River. Correct. And everything else is cotton.
Correct.
Well, Bray Allen's.
The Bray Allen's Arkansas. Yeah, one's 116th in priority, one's 118th.
So those are, at some point, those are rights we could use through our wells.
Correct.
Not from any.
For some kind of augmentation and storage and things.
Joe, I got a couple of questions here.
So for the Gorell and the Leesma ditch, that's not consumptive use, right? If it would be dried up, would it have to go through court?
No, it's already gone through.
It already has. Okay, I didn't know if it's, okay. Irrigation, got it, okay.
And part of the reason, like, you know, we've got these other water rights, everything's been adjudicated. And if we were to say, hey, let's actually check out like our winter water right, get some storage, or let's store like the Terwilliger ditch that we have. Well, all of a sudden we open up everything from that decree, including Gorell and Leesma. And so it's just like, the decree is done.
Peggy, did you have a question? You had the same question?
I mean, I'm understanding. Yeah, I had the same question.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I was like, what kind of water is that water? Yeah, there's different kinds.
Different kinds of water.
Okay, are there other trustee questions where we are now?
So our existing portfolio, well, we've been talking about this in water allocation policy and other parts, but it's worth mentioning without getting too into the weeds, because it's talking about supply more than use. Keep in mind, we've got, you know, we're basing everything on dry year trends, a maximum 7-day production to determine SFE or single family equivalents. At this point, any kind of conservation measures that are happening, we're assuming it's bonus water until we see some kind of trend lines changing that adjusts the gallons per day calculation. So summary, available in irrigation season, we've got our 3 CFS. Again, everything, all the junior rights are too subordinate. These are susceptible to calls on cottonwood, in particular with DOC and CPW, that trucker ditch, bolts, and other folk have part of that. We've got the 5 acre feet from Upper Ark, and we've got some ability to transfer water via our existing Upper Ark. I think we have like 10 acre feet of storage up there, sort of, depending. With some here. Yeah. So here's a map of our infrastructure. You can see so our infiltration galleries right here. We've got our the treatment plant that's scuttled at the moment next to well number 2, just downriver. Here is also where the water is going to be diverted for Tribune. We've got the Ivy League pump station. We've got different lower zone tanks. And you can see the water system throughout there. We've got 2 different zones, the upper zone, the lower zone for pressure zone. So just a little snapshot of our infrastructure. You can see the concentration of water use. And then well number 1 is we've got a little well at the rodeo grounds that is, for all intents and purposes, unusable. I mean, for horses and things like that, but I guess 0.1 acre feet of a real kind of a junior right. We've got well number 3 down at the river park. And well number 4, the plans would be going essentially to the same place. Some spacing. And there's a picture of the watershed where town is, Cottonwood Creek, south, middle, north Cottonwood, Rainbow Lake, and Cottonwood Lake. We do have Cottonwood Lake is what we've been discussing there. There are some storage rights that Upper Ark has, in particular, specifically with Rainbow Lake. Technically, we have the ability to transfer project water to Rainbow Lake, but we don't have any storage, so we can't, right? And here's a picture just of that stormwater protection area. So you can see that area, the blue hash mark, that's what we are allowed to influence as our stormwater protection area. And that's right where most of our water rights. Terry and Gracie were talking about how great it is to be spreading our water rights into our demand into the main stem of the Arkansas instead of only within that little wedge, because that's where all our water was before. So we're progressing down with some of our water that's coming online with the wells and some augmentation potential. Okay, so the project water, we've been mentioning project water. We buy it annually. We've got about 1,000 acre feet stored in Twin Lakes, but it's really stored in Pueblo Reservoir, which is about 10 years worth of water, and we keep buying it. It's cheap water. We can store again up to 75 acre feet. It's great to know we had always been, since 2014 and 15, we had always been expecting maybe 40 acre feet of storage up there. But it's great to know that might be even 47.63. So it's fantastic. And again, nothing's available to us at Rainbow Lake, even though we could store it there. We don't count on, talking about the demand, we don't count on project water in our long-term demand. It's only for emergency use. And it might not be there. I don't know. And like I said, it's very inexpensive relative. We use it for well 2, for evaporation of the pond, and for helping irrigate the sports field. So our potential water, like I said, we've got this St. Charles Mesa, that 0.88 CFS, potentially up to 1, but really 0.88 CFS. It's already been adjudicated. We can use it now, but we don't count on it because there are times in dry years when we can have a call and then we're out of luck for a while. We don't know how long we would be out of luck. And we don't have confidence that that project water will maintain that. So, but there are some water discussions that we're in where we might be able to get some creative use of that, including some potential additional storage and Pueblo Reservoir that could be released for those, but it requires some agreement with St. Charles Mesa as well. And sometimes they talk to us, and most of the time they don't. We have the Bray Allen, which we're working on. Leesmont Ditch is a potential dry field. Again, we'll discuss that offline. And then any other water brought into the area by developers, the development community, because that's a potential, and including augmentation certificates that we've been kind of discussing. Do we include them? Do we not? Do we allow them? Under what conditions? Which we'll get into in a future meeting. We've got some ideas on that. So some of the court decrees, again, the result of the court decrees, all of our current water rights are designated for the diversion at the treatment facility. And I think, well, 2 maybe, there's very distinct points where we can divert the water. There's no storage associated, and we don't get any irrigation or sanitation credits from those. And I know that comes up, hey, let's file for return flows, from the sanitation, the sewage, and we can't do that. Again, we have the provisions for how Gorell and Leesmont would dry up. We also have our existing water right. I don't have I'm gonna get Caroline on the map, but there's a thin kind of blue line, if you will, around BV that designates we can use water within that line. We can't use it in other areas. We're not near growing to where those areas are. But we have discussed it with like the fill station. Some people come and fill up a bunch of water and take it into Park County. Well, are we breaking the decree somehow? So it's something to be aware of. And then we have some other agreements with the Upper Ark, part of their global augmentation plan. which feeds well 2 and 3 and someday well 4. It's limited in scope and we pay for the water, but it also allows that transfer of project water. And we have this conditional use for the town pond right now. It's an every 6-year cycle, but we're trying to make it an absolute use at the moment. So we are asking some strategic questions, and these are not, this is just FYI, this is kind of what we've been thinking about. So, you know, one, are there limits to traffic, schools, services, et cetera, that would impact how much water we pursue? Right? Will we contemplate a 5th well? Will well 3 and well 4, will that take our, you know, suffice our demand for some period of time? We're looking at that water allocation policy a little bit right now. A developer can pull everything from general and nothing from the other buckets. So there's a little loophole in there. Do we require balance? Yeah, when do we accept water augmentation certificates and under what conditions? And also, how can we improve sophistication of water accounting and incorporate SFE calculations for development? At what point do we start saying, hey, a row house is this much and a bigger house is this much? And we've done so much water accounting, but there's this whole world of increased sophistication that we can get into. And so those are some, especially for the water navigation. That's it. Presentation, questions, discussion.
Question. So with our existing portfolio and availability, sorry. So water that we're currently using, if we're not utilizing all of it, not exhausting all of it that's coming through that's paid for, we're not allowed to store it. Can we not store it because places to store it, or that's just not allowed to? If it's our water, we paid for it and we have the right to it, why couldn't we do that?
Yeah, you have to, when you go through water court, you have to designate storage where it could be stored.
Mm.
And
since we don't have a place for it, you couldn't, got it.
So we'd have to take everything back through water court. It would open up the whole case, not just that right necessarily.
Right. You could use that Cottonwood Creek Dam.
I know, like we have storage now.
But yeah, but part of that is
It
the
makes
project
sense.
water we can store up there.
Sure.
There's potential for future cooperative agreements with the upper arc, you know,
Right.
if project wasn't available or something, maybe. And then there's the potential still for the alluvial storage down by the DOC. And we have Arkansas rights that could conceivably be stored there. When we go through water court, we'll say, we want to store.
And that's something that we're doing for potential future water purchases. Yeah, we want to store this time.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but you have to kind of have a plan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At least.
You can't say you're gonna store it and then not have a break with it. Yeah.
Terry has a comment here.
I just had a comment, something we haven't talked about for a while, is the interditch exchange on Truck Creek Company ditch. So we're working on that already. We've already drilled one test well with good results. We're getting ready to drill another one. So the way that works is that we're able to take project water or any water in the Arkansas River and use it to augment this well in Truck Creek Park, okay, where we're augmented 100%. So if you're pumping 1 acre, 1 CFS, then we take that 1 CFS out of the well and we give it to Mr. Moltz in exchange for 1 CFS of his water right at the Truck Creek Company ditch, which then that water becomes, that's an exchange. It's called an interditch exchange. And we have a decree for that. So then that water becomes that fully consumable water that was in the river, but now it's in Truck Creek. So it meets the demand in Truck Creek, which would normally be the Truck Creek Company ditch. So we can take that, then we can do another exchange we want, and we can move that up to Cottonwood Lake or use it for augmentation within Cottonwood Creek. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I thought maybe you might want to know that that's there, and that's pretty close to coming online. Grayson, will be next year or two?
Yeah, hopefully, probably within about a year and a half.
About a year and a half, that'll come online. So it involves 1 or 2, maybe 3 wells that they're pumping basically out of the Arkansas River. They're next to the Arkansas River. It's in that alluvium. And a pipeline. And then that's it. So don't forget that.
Yeah, so there's some real creative opportunities for creativity and working with the Upper Ark and working with others to help.
Sure. So you take the Braille and take your Braille and water right. So when the day comes and you change that water right, that water, as long as it gets named in our portfolio, really simple process for us. It's a process, it takes 6 months or so to do it. So that water right just gets named in there. Then we could actually utilize that water to augment the wells. And so that becomes your water. You put it out on Cottonwood Creek. So through some trades and agreements like that, with that kind of infrastructure and resource, you could be able to minimize some of these deficiencies you might have on Cottonwood Creek too. So it brings more water again from the Arkansas River to Cottonwood Creek.
Thanks, Terry.
So the augment certificates that get sold, do you plan on storing that water at Cottonwood? Or where does it get stored for people, communities to use?
So it doesn't have to be stored necessarily at Cottonwood Creek or even on Cottonwood Creek. The only time you would have to be released to Cottonwood Creek is when the impact was to Cottonwood Creek. So what's the impact? Most of the time, let's say 50% of the time at least, the impact is not on Cottonwood Creek. So during those periods of time, you augment daily. Okay, so you have a daily demand. So at least 50% of the time it's not on Cottonwood. For those periods of time when it is on Cottonwood, it's something less than 50%. Okay, then we have other resources on Cottonwood Creek ourselves, besides the stored water, okay, that we can utilize to be able to augment, including that interditch exchange. But that interditch exchange actually helps that. And then we also acquired some CID, Cottonwood irrigating ditch water. And we have at least a little over 100 acre feet of capacity with those 2 water rights on the Cottonwood irrigating ditch. Senior enough water rights, when they were changed, we were able to get 100 acre feet. Well, basically, we've got 100 acre feet, 103, I think is what it is on average, because what we're going to do is the return flows from the historic use of the irrigation, Cottonwood irrigating ditch, went to the Arkansas River. So what we do is we'll keep the return flow as fully consumable on Cottonwood Creek and replace the return flows on the Arkansas River with other water we have on the Arkansas River. So that moved those return flow as well as the consumptive use to Cottonwood Creek. Instead of in the neighborhood of, I think it was 25 or 30 acre feet, we end up with 103 on Cottonwood Creek. So we're working, we got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We're working to try to get more and more on Cottonwood Creek. So Cottonwood Creek is looking better and better all the time. And that's why I say us working together as partners in all of this stuff, there's a lot of mutual benefit here. And I can see looking down the road, as you look down 10, maybe 15, 20 years from now, a lot of the stuff that we talked about in the past 20 years was not even conceived of that you'll be doing, and you'll be meeting those demands. I do have one comment, and this may be a sore thing for you, but I want to put it out there for you because I think you need to think about it. And that is and you're probably already doing this, so I'm probably misspeaking, but I got to say it. And that is, I think you need to look at your delivery system, your portable delivery system in your town. as far as leaks and stuff like that. And I know, talking with Brian and Joel and Sean, you guys are working on this. But if you're able to get your hand around that and put revenue, money into fixing that system, the whole system, your delivery system, as far as leaks and stuff, so your delivery is much more efficient. Every community has leaks. You're not gonna get around it, but it's like 10%. A lot higher. And I think that's where you guys really ought to be looking at that. Because you can really increase your water supply. It's like a conservation method, really. You can increase your available water supply, your physical water supply. I think that go a long, long way to getting you way down the road. You know, and I'm not trying to be critical. Okay, I'm just, you know, I can't help but I hear about it, and I've seen some numbers, and it's really high. And I think if you can get that really worked on. And I don't know much about potable delivery systems. I never worked in that area. I'm in raw water. Okay, so I'm really speaking outside my expertise, but what I'm hearing and when I'm talking with other people working there, I think you got to be shooting for like a 10% target to get it down to that. You know, everybody has leaks. All municipalities have leaks, but usually 10% is the top end of loss. If your system loss can be reduced, that's huge. And I think there's money out there from CWCB. In fact, I'm almost positive there is. Not CWCB so much as Colorado Power, Water Development, and other buckets of money out there to be able to be used to upgrade that infrastructure. And I would think that ought to be, you guys are probably thinking about it already. Brian's sitting there shaking his head about long-term plans and maybe doing that. And I think that will really help you on Cottonwood Creek a lot. Sorry, I interrupted.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, thank you for updating us. But Andrew's got questions.
One question for Joe. On your last slide with the strategic questions, you're kind of all over the town. We still be focusing on those questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we complete? Is that?
So
Thank you
that's
very
all I
much.
had. Thank you.
Okay, the last of our business items is just a notification that the rezoning petition that had been presented has been withdrawn for the 105 Bardwood. So now we have the trustee staff interaction. And I've been doing some things with housing. Yesterday, I went to the open house down in Salida for the properties that the Chafee Housing Trust has put together. There are 6 duplex units that will be available for purchase. They have buyers for 3 of them. So 3 of them are still available for buyers. They're going for at 80% AMI. I think the price is like $225,000. And they're small, they're probably 1,000 square feet or so. And at 100% AMI, the price is about $300,000. But you know, they're available and people ought to be, you know, going down and take a look at them, and they're quite nice. And this developer is subject to the inclusionary housing provisions of Salida, but they built the required units. They were required to produce 5 of them. They produced 6, and they built them first. So that was really nice. Construction, so those were good. And the Chafee Housing Authority has hired an interim executive director, Marjo Kurgis, who's really doing a great job. The loan guarantee, the deposit, and security deposit, and first and second and last month rent project is ongoing. And they've put together the community guidelines for who can go into these various properties. You know, what levels of AMI, what kinds of assets can the potential renter have. And they're getting ready to purchase the 505 apartments in Salida, which will be 19 units of property that they are committed to not raising the rent any more than they've been raising it under its current ownership.
That's the housing authorities.
Yeah.
505.
So it'll be 19 units down there. Devin, anything?
No, the only thing I'll be in New England next meeting, so I'll be attending remote.
Late at night.
Yeah, you guys will probably have an exec session.
We are actually planning.
Yeah, I know. That seems to be the ongoing trend is whenever I'm on the East Coast, there's a really late exec session.
Tell me ahead of time.
Well, I don't care.
Andrew?
No.
No, okay. Cindy? Okay. Gina?
Two quick things, just some things I've been up to. So I was appointed to the Rocky Mountain Resource Advisory Council by the BLM. And as they have 3 different tiers of folks that are on this council, not as an elected official or in that bucket, but the purpose of what we do is kind of like a thought bubble to provide ideas of how BLM land should be utilized, or when they go through their budget process, or I don't know, balancing the needs and changes with tourism and use. And so obviously it's, you know, land of many uses, just what they can improve on, what they can do to help benefit more, all the people, I guess, if you will. And so the different segments of folks that are on this board are able to provide just suggestions to their, you know, what they're there for. So essentially my experience here on the board, what we see here with, you know, 4 Mile in the area we're here, I can share that information with them. We just had our first meeting, was it, I think, last week. So they're still kind of new and getting things rolling. It's been a little defunct in the Rocky Mountain region area, but it's been fun. We did a little field trip up on Chavano, right below, and I know this is county, not in town, but since we do have BLM in our jurisdiction here, right next door, that directly affects us, it's important. But they are starting to do more things like designated dispersed camping, so that sprawl isn't all over BLM, which is legal and it's okay, that's totally fine. But they are trying to corral people into areas that are already heavily impacted, so they're not continuing that everywhere else. For example, you know, obviously there's also grazing permits on BLM land, right? So those permittees have stock tanks, and when you have sprawl from people just coming out to enjoy the land with their tent or their vehicle, if they were getting closer and closer stock tanks, that affects the cows and that permittee with the grazing. So just trying to figure out how to play nice and make everything work on those lands. And the other thing is earlier this week was the Connecting Colorado. Actually, it was this morning. We still were doing stuff and yesterday. Sorry, my brain's on. I'm like, what day of the week is it? Obviously, it's a Tuesday. We only do these meetings on Tuesdays. But there was this Connecting Colorado event, kind of like an inter agency and region meeting of Forest Service, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, pretty much any outdoor focused organization you could think of, along with different officials from local regions. You have, I think Gunnison was there, other counties. Essentially, they're looking to see what we're doing here and how they can implement a lot of what we do here back in their areas. So a lot of discussion was surrounding, you know, public lands, management of the ag lands, and also recreation opportunities, and also how our organization is going to be able to continue to pay for a lot of the things we already are doing, because grant dollars from the federal and state levels are slowly disappearing. So how do we keep funding things? How do we work together to make opportunities on all these different areas, you know, make sense? So when we talk about wildfire mitigation and all kinds of fun things, but it was really kind of neat. So anyhow, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I like the outdoors.
Maggie.
I want to give a shout out to Brian for the flags on the highway. I was definitely right in front of Loaf and Jug around lunch fries, coolers, and watching them cross the street with the flags was really fun.
Really?
They looked like they were having a good time with it, and everybody stopped. So thanks for that. It's good work. Yeah.
Took a while.
But it's done now.
It's-
That's all that matters. Yeah.
All above board, kind of.
It was fun watching those kids cross with it. Hopefully they'll keep that same enthusiasm. Yeah. And it was a group of all guys too.
I saw the same exact thing. I
Yeah.
must have been in. the same spot.
We may have been on the same,
Yeah.
day. Or hopefully they're just doing it every day. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, putting it to use. That's it for me.
Philip, got anything else?
Thanks for the quick information packed work session on the budget. So just a heads up what's coming. Leading up to the October 8th meeting, you'll get an email invite from ClearGov to access the working budget. That is the tool that the staff uses to build the budget. It's a handy and pretty robust tool. It's completely optional for the board, but you all will be set up as reviewers, so you can go in, see the full detail. You can even leave comments, ask questions, things like that. Brian and I get copied on anything that gets put in there, so feel free to use it if you wish.
You can't break it.
You can't break it.
That's what you keep saying.
Yeah.
I can't break it, I don't think. I mean, Sean didn't break it, so, I mean, and he tries too. So completely optional, because all this will be in your packets throughout the process, but you may find it helpful. I'll also send an email with instructions on how to use it, how to sign up, and where to click to go see everything. And I'll invite you, if there is a desire for one-on-one training, I'm happy to do that as well. Second thing, just wanted to thank our newspaper, the emphasis and coverage on the upcoming housing, I think, has been fantastic. There's a lot of housing units about to come on board, and I don't think many people are aware of what's happening and what's coming. It's gonna have a big impact, and I'm anxious to see that. I'm also a little anxious to see the impacts on traffic and things like that. So a lot of housing aids coming. So yeah, great job. I appreciate getting that word out.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Paula?
I think I want to share with you, we have hired a deputy town clerk, Ed Barkowski. He will start October 8th.
Ed Barkowski. All right.
Good.
That's exciting.
That's great. We know this person. He's welcome with a stack of short-term rental applications.
Oh, cool. Respect.
Mayor, I thought of something in there.
Okay, Cindy.
Philip talk. The public comments, Buena Vista Chamber of Commerce ask of $45,000. We're working on budget, and I don't know. We've never paid the chamber that amount of money before, but it's something that we would need to maybe discuss, but would like to help them out, but don't know if it is possible because we've got so much going on in our capital projects and revenue is getting up now.
You'll have a much better picture next meeting of what the project's add up to and
I
public
just
support.
dropped the chamber. It was in the back of my mind, but their ask was a lot more than I thought it would be.
It's also kind of suspicious or interesting how they've been fundraising so much and like, yeah, no, we can't.
And they have
Yeah, clear
plans
wise, what's going
for,
on.
but they didn't say what their plans to promote revenue for 2025 was. They just said they had plans.
Well, and they have had zero grant money according to their profit and loss. So that tells me that they haven't, if they've attempted, then they haven't been able to receive. There are a lot of grants out there for a welcome center. And which I know pretty extensively. And it looks like they haven't had any of those come in for the last 8 months. And my other concern is that they're a 501c6, so they're considered a membership organization. It's not just a visitor center, it's the chamber. The visitor center, or the welcome center, I should say, has been opened under this latest executive director, but there still isn't any Secretary of State filing for a 501c3. So it's under the umbrella of the 501c6. And that's kind of my concern of a town funding a membership organization that's also a lobbyist organization. Where it's not just the Welcome Center and Visitor Center, because the check would have to go to that 501c6. So I agree, a visitor center is so super duper important. And it does a lot of really good things for the town. But I'd like to see it as an actual welcome center and not under a 501c6 umbrella. Yeah.
Okay, that's just my concern.
Thank you, Cindy.
If you keep a list of those requests on the side that we can kind of just keep track of, and they're gonna keep growing. Well,
That's helpful.
discuss them as we go.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sean? Oh,
Do I have any?
Effie?
I don't know. Excited, I think we got a good individual to fill the role at Town Hall, Regional Town Hall, and that front office, and I feel good about the hire at Town Hall East as far as kind of the front of office, half rec, half planning, that just helps facilitate the walk-ins. So we've had what seems to be a success in the last 2 rounds, and we hope to have that recurring success moving forward into the unknown over the next few months. So you guys received the email, it's such a huge thing that the willingness to stay on board through a transition goes a really long way. So I did want to say thank you, Joel, just on knocking on it, let alone it's 20 years of service, but you can get into all that kind of stuff as we go further, and we're gonna try to just make it work another 5. So.
You got this another 5.
5, 17. That's all I've got.
And Maggie's been helping Brian on planning the appreciation breakfast.
It's gonna be so fun.
Yep, everybody wants 8 o'clock. Devin didn't respond, so he's 7 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, Devin.
He's 7.
That's fine, because I probably have to
Gina's
work at
7.
I say I'll be there.
I
at 8.
responded.
You did respond.
Yeah.
But then everybody wanted 8, past 8.
We could make it 8:30.
I'll do whatever.
so I'll do 8:30, so.
I'll do it. I don't care.
You
Staff
were
works
very
hard.
chipper after being out at 6:30 for the run on Saturday, so I'll give you that.
I can do
I
either
don't
one.
remember this.
It was such a.
Yeah,
Oh, that, I know.
but we can line it.
You want some maple
Now the
syrup?
things I'm doing in my life right now.
Yeah.
I'm like.
I don't know anymore.
You seem a little ambivalent with that. Yes.
I thought I was like, I was.
Yeah, you only get the good stuff.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah, super.
I'll look a young Devin.
Okay, one last thing.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, so we got Rowe and Rice, and is everyone in favor? Is anyone in favor?
Everybody, yeah.
Anyone opposed? There's Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, you didn't need me once again. Just want to let you know I was here. I was listening, but.
We're doing this all night.
Okay, thanks,
All
Jeff.
right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff. Have a good night.
All right.
Carly, thanks for adding that photo in your community dinner article.